My wife skipped our 15th anniversary dinner for a motel room. I followed GPS, filmed the cheating, sent the video to her family, and walked away. At the restaurant, I could feel the weight of the night ahead. It wasn't just any night. It was our 15th wedding anniversary, and I had spent weeks planning every detail. The restaurant, one of the most exclusive in the city, was a place she had mentioned wanting to try for years. I'd pulled every string I could to get a reservation. The dim lighting, soft music, and the faint clinking of wine glasses created a romantic atmosphere that, at least for now, seemed perfect. I was excited, even nervous, like I was back on our first date. I arrived early, eager to ensure everything was just right. The table was set impeccably, a small vase with fresh roses, her favorite wine chilling nearby, in the best seat in the house reserved just for us. I even brought along a small gift, a delicate bracelet I had chosen after weeks of searching. It was tucked neatly in my pocket, ready to surprise her when the moment felt right. But as the minutes ticked by, excitement turned into a gnawing sense of unease. She was late, not just a little late, but 30 minutes late. At first I brushed it off. Maybe traffic was worse than expected, maybe she got caught up at work. Still, it wasn't like her. I sent a quick text. "Hey, everything okay? Can't wait to see you." No response. Another 10 minutes passed. The waiter came by with a warm, understanding smile. "Would you like to order something while you wait?" he asked. I declined, laughing nervously, telling him she'd be here soon. I glanced at my phone, no messages, no missed calls. I dialed her number, but it went straight to voicemail. An hour in, the waiter returned, his tone more hesitant this time. Should I hold the table for a little longer? The pity in his eyes was hard to miss. I nodded stiffly, forcing a smile I didn't feel. My stomach churned as I called her again, this time letting it ring longer. Still nothing. The restaurant, once lively and full of energy, started to feel suffocatingly quiet. I could feel the occasional glance from other diners, the subtle shifts as they whispered to each other. At this point, worry had completely overtaken excitement. Was she okay? Had something happened? I couldn't help but picture the worst. My hands shook slightly as I typed another text. "Please let me know you're safe. I'm getting worried." This time I didn't try to hide my concern. Still no reply. 2 hours had gone by, and I was sitting there alone at a table set for two. The restaurant had started to empty. The once bustling energy replaced with the quiet sounds of staff cleaning up. I could barely focus on anything else as my phone sat silent on the table, mocking me. I had called her 3 more times by now, each one more desperate than the last. When I saw the waiter approaching again, I didn't even wait for him to speak. "Just give me the check," I said flatly, though I hadn't touched a thing. Packing up my hopes for the evening, I left the restaurant, the gift still unopened in my pocket. My heart was pounding and my mind raced with questions I couldn't answer. As I stepped into the crisp night air, I stared at my phone one last time, praying for some sign from her, and then, as if on cue, it lit up with an incoming call from her number. For a brief moment, relief washed over me. She was finally calling back. But the moment I answered, I realized something wasn't right. When I picked up the call, my voice came out shaky, more from relief than anything else. "Hey, are you okay? I've been trying to reach you all night." There was a pause on her end, a hesitation that immediately set me on edge. Her voice was rushed, almost distracted. "Oh, hey, I'm so sorry. I got caught up. I'm, running late." She didn't offer much else, no explanation. No apology for the hours of silence. Nothing that would justify why she had left me sitting there in that restaurant feeling like a fool. Something about her tone was off. It wasn't just hurried, it was distant. I could hear faint noises in the background, muffled laughter, a clink that sounded like a glass being set down, and then a man's voice low but distinct. I couldn't make out what he was saying, but he was close enough to her that it made my stomach twist into knots. "Where are you?" I asked, my voice steady but sharp. I tried to keep the tremor out of it, but I'm not sure I succeeded. There was another pause, longer this time, and when she answered, it was with a tone that felt rehearsed. "I'm still at the office. We had a last-minute project come up and I couldn't leave. I'll head home soon." At the office, at nearly 11 p.m., and that voice, there was no way she was alone. "You're still at work?" I repeated, trying to keep my disbelief in check. I didn't want to accuse her outright, but every fiber of my being was screaming that something wasn't right. "Yes," she snapped, her voice suddenly defensive. "Look, I can't talk right now. I'll see you at home, okay?" Before I could respond, she hung up. Just like that. No chance for me to press her further, no room for an explanation. The call ended, but the questions it left me with were deafening. For a moment I just stood there on the sidewalk, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the empty line. My mind raced, replaying every second of the call, the background noises, the man's voice, her rushed tone. It all felt wrong. Deep down I already knew the answer to the question I hadn't even dared to ask yet, but I wasn't ready to let myself believe it. Not yet. Instinctively, I opened the phone's GPS app. Months ago, we had installed a location-sharing feature as a precaution when she started working late shifts. I hadn't used it before tonight, but now I felt no hesitation. My fingers moved almost automatically as I pulled up her location. My heart sank when the app loaded. She wasn't at her office. She was somewhere across town, parked at a place I recognized immediately, a small, out-of-the-way motel. My chest tightened, and a wave of nausea hit me so hard I had to lean against a nearby wall to steady myself. I stared at the blinking dot on the screen, hoping I was wrong, that this was all some kind of mistake, but the cold, undeniable truth stared back at me, and with it came a growing sense of betrayal. I stood there for a moment, frozen in place. Then anger began to replace the shock. If she was lying to me, if what I feared was true, I needed to know for sure. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I wasn't going to sit back and wonder, not anymore. I called her again one last time, but this time it went straight to voicemail. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. My jaw tightened as I pocketed the phone and walked briskly toward my car. My hands were trembling not from fear but from a cold, determined rage. This wasn't just suspicion anymore, it was a puzzle, and the pieces were starting to fall into place. As I started the car, the address still glowing on the GPS, my mind was a storm of emotions: hurt, anger, disbelief, but beneath it all was a single, undeniable drive. I was going to find out the truth, and I was going to do it tonight. The car ride to the motel was a blur. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles white with tension. Every red light felt like an eternity, every slow driver an obstacle in my way. The address on the GPS loomed on the screen, the blinking dot mocking me, daring me to keep going. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. What if I was wrong? What if there was some innocent explanation for all of this? But every time I tried to convince myself otherwise, her rushed tone and the voice in the background replayed in my head like a broken record. By the time I pulled into the small parking lot of the motel, my heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. The place was exactly what you'd expect, dimly lit, with peeling paint on the walls and a neon vacancy sign flickering erratically. It wasn't a place you'd go to by accident, and certainly not somewhere you'd mistake for an office. The truth was staring me in the face, and the weight of it was almost suffocating. I parked a few spots away from her car, which I recognized immediately. There it was, plain as day. She hadn't even tried to hide it, hadn't parked it somewhere inconspicuous. I sat there for a moment, gripping my phone like it was a lifeline. Part of me wanted to storm in immediately to demand answers, but another part of me hesitated. Once I went in, there would be no turning back. Whatever I found inside would change everything. Taking a deep breath, I opened the location-sharing app again, confirming what I already knew: she was inside. My fingers hovered over the screen, and almost instinctively, I turned on the video recording on my phone. If I was going to do this, I needed proof of what she had done, of what I had suspected all night. I stepped out of the car. The night air was cool against my skin but did nothing to calm the fire in my chest. Each step toward the motel felt heavier than the last. I scanned the cars in the lot, wondering which one belonged to him. The thought made my stomach churn, but I pushed it aside. Right now I had one goal: find her. The hallway leading to the room smelled faintly of mildew and regret. My heart was racing as I passed door after door, the numbers blurring together until I found the one the GPS led me to room 214. I could hear muffled voices on the other side, hers, unmistakably, and his deeper and more casual, as if this were just another night for them. For a second I froze. This was it. This was the moment everything I thought I knew about my life either shattered or miraculously held together. I pressed record on my phone and raised it slightly, holding my breath as I knocked firmly on the door. There was a pause. The voices inside went silent. Then came the sound of hurried footsteps, a hushed whisper, and the door cracked open slightly. She stood there, her face a mix of shock and dread, like a kid caught sneaking out past curfew. Her hair was tousled, her blouse wrinkled in a way that left no room for doubt. What are you doing here?" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes darted nervously behind her, and before she could close the door, I pushed it open wider enough to see him standing there, shirtless, frozen, mid-motion. For a moment none of us spoke. The weight of the silence was crushing, the air thick with tension. I lifted my phone slightly, the camera still recording. "So this is what working late looks like," I said. My voice was calm, colder than I expected it to be. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her expression said everything. As I stood there watching her scramble for an explanation, all the anger, hurt, and disbelief I'd been carrying turned into something else: resolve. I wasn't going to let this moment pass unnoticed. Not this time. The moment I stepped fully into the room, the air felt suffocating. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of the motel air conditioner. She backed away slightly, her face pale, her eyes darting between me and the man who now stood awkwardly by the bed, his shirt still half draped over one arm. He looked at me like a deer caught in headlights, unsure if he should speak, run, or disappear into thin air. "Are you going to say something?" I asked, directing the question to no one in particular. My voice was steady, calm even, but the tension in my chest was almost unbearable. I held my phone firmly, still recording as I panned it slowly between her and him, making sure there was no room for excuses or denials later. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but nothing came out. Her lips trembled slightly, and for a brief moment I saw a flicker of shame in her eyes. This isn't what it looks like," she finally managed, her voice shaky and unconvincing. The words felt as hollow as the room itself. "Not what it looks like," I repeated, raising an eyebrow and gesturing around the room, the unmade bed, the half-empty bottle of wine on the nightstand, and his shoes carelessly tossed in the corner. All of it painted a picture far clearer than any explanation she could try to conjure. "So what does it look like then? Enlighten me." Her co-worker, because now I could put a face to the name she had occasionally dropped in casual conversations, shifted uncomfortably, but didn't say a word. He looked young, probably in his late 20s, and had the audacity to look almost apologetic, as though this wasn't entirely his fault. I could see the fear in his eyes, and honestly, I wasn't sure whether to laugh or lash out. "I think you should leave," I said, my gaze fixed on him. My voice was cold, and I could see the weight of those words land heavily on him. He hesitated for a moment, looking to her as if silently asking for permission or guidance. But she didn't respond. "Now," I added, the edge in my tone unmistakable. Without another word, he grabbed his things, his shirt, his shoes, and whatever was left of his dignity, and brushed past me, avoiding eye contact as he disappeared out the door. The sound of it slamming shut echoed in the room, leaving just the two of us behind. For a moment, neither of us said anything. She stood there, her arms crossed tightly over her chest as though trying to shield herself from the reality of what had just happened. I could see the tears welling up in her eyes, but they didn't stir any sympathy in me, not tonight. "How long?" I asked finally, breaking the silence. My voice was low but firm. "How long has this been going on?" She looked at me, her expression a mix of guilt and desperation. It wasn't," she began, but the words fell apart as quickly as they left her mouth. She took a shaky breath. "It just happened. It wasn't planned, I swear." "Not planned?" I scoffed, the bitterness in my tone impossible to hide. "You expect me to believe that? This wasn't a mistake. Mistakes don't look like this." I gestured around the room again, my voice rising slightly. "This was a choice you made over and over again." She tried to reach for my hand, but I pulled away. The gesture felt like a slap in the face. "Please, let me explain," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "Explain?" I said, shaking my head. "You've had hours to explain. You ignored me all night, lied to me, and now you want to explain?" I pulled out my phone, the recording still running, and held it up. "You see this? This is the truth you've been hiding, and now everyone else is going to see it too." Her eyes widened in panic, and she reached out as if to grab the phone, but I stepped back. "Don't," I warned. "This is what you've done. You don't get to control the narrative anymore." She broke down then, tears streaming down her face, but I felt nothing, no pity, no anger, just a cold emptiness. The woman I had trusted, loved, and built a life with had become a stranger. In that moment, I turned toward the door, the weight of everything crashing down on me as I left her standing there alone in the mess she had created. As I stepped out of the motel room, my hand was still gripping my phone tightly. The recording was paused, but the weight of everything it captured felt heavy in my palm. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions, but anger rose to the top, burning hotter with every step I took toward my car. Sitting in the driver's seat, I closed the door and leaned back, staring at the phone in my hand. The video was undeniable, indisputable proof of her betrayal. I played it back. The sound of her voice, her presence in that room, the looks on their faces etched into every second of the recording. I didn't know what to do with it at first. A part of me wanted to keep it private, to hold it close as some shield against her lies. But another part of me, the part fueled by raw, searing pain, wanted the truth out in the open. That's when my thumb hovered over the share button. I wasn't thinking clearly, I'll admit that. But in that moment, all I wanted was for someone else to know, for someone to see what I had been put through. Her family came to mind immediately. They'd always been close to me, treating me like one of their own, her parents, her siblings. They all loved me, and I knew they'd be blindsided by this just as much as I was. Before I could second-guess myself, my finger tapped the button. I sent the video to the family group chat without a caption, without any explanation, just the raw footage, as if to say, "This is what's been happening. This is who she is." My heart raced the moment I saw the little checkmark confirming it had been delivered. At first there was nothing, no replies, no responses. The group chat stayed eerily quiet, and for a brief second I wondered if I had done the right thing. But then the notifications started coming in a rapid series of pings that felt almost deafening. Her mother was the first to reply, "What is this?" The shock was clear, even through text. Then her sister chimed in, "Oh my God, is this real? Please tell me this is fake." Her father, who rarely ever spoke in the group, simply wrote, "Call me." The messages kept pouring in, each one more chaotic than the last. Some were directed at her, demanding an explanation. Others were aimed at me, apologizing for what I had gone through, expressing disbelief that she could do something like this. The dynamic in the group shifted instantly, and suddenly she wasn't just my wife anymore. She was a daughter, a sister, and a person who had betrayed not just me but the entire family. I saw her typing the little dots at the bottom of the screen, blinking furiously, but no message ever came through. Maybe she didn't know what to say. Maybe she knew there was nothing she could say to fix it. Either way, her silence only made the flood of messages louder. Her brother's message stood out the most. "I never thought she'd be capable of this. We're with you, man, always." It was a small comfort in the midst of everything, knowing that at least they weren't defending her actions, weren't trying to minimize what she had done. By the time I got home, the chat had become a war zone. Her family was divided, some trying to piece together how long this had been going on, others questioning her character, and a few trying to figure out what this meant for the future. I didn't participate. I just sat there, scrolling through the messages, watching as her world unraveled in real time. It wasn't until I saw her car pull into the driveway that I realized what I'd done. She stormed into the house, her face red with anger, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. "What the hell did you do?" she shouted, her voice cracking under the weight of her panic. I didn't flinch. I didn't raise my voice. I just looked her in the eyes and said, "I told the truth. If you can't handle that, it's on you." She opened her mouth to argue, to plead, to do whatever she thought might salvage the situation. But I didn't care anymore. The damage was done, and for the first time that night I felt like I had control. Her phone buzzed again, the sound cutting through the tense silence between us, another message from the group, no doubt. She looked down at it, her expression shifting from anger to despair, and for a moment, just a moment, I felt a small sense of justice. This was her mess now. She had to live with it. The house felt eerily quiet the next morning. For the first time in years, I woke up not to the sound of her moving around, making coffee, or rushing off to work, but to a stillness that was both unsettling and oddly peaceful. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone. The family group chat was still active, messages pouring in through the night. Some were directed at her, demanding answers she never gave. Others were messages of support for me, assurances that I didn't deserve this, that they had my back. She hadn't come to bed. At some point she must have grabbed a blanket and slept on the couch, or maybe not at all. I didn't check. I didn't care. The few times I heard her walking through the house, I could feel her hesitation, as if she wanted to approach me but didn't know how. The sound of her steps would pause outside the kitchen door and then retreat. I didn't go after her. By mid-morning, I finally broke the silence, not to her, but to her father, who had called again and left a voicemail asking how I was holding up. "I'm okay," I told him, though I wasn't sure if that was true. "Thanks for reaching out. I appreciate it." His voice on the other end was steady, a mix of sympathy and quiet anger. "We're all so ashamed of her," he said. "This isn't who we raised her to be." It wasn't an easy call to have. Her father, a man I had always admired and respected, sounded utterly broken. He asked me what my plans were, if I was going to forgive her, or if I was considering leaving. For the first time since this all began, I allowed myself to say the words I'd been avoiding. I don't think I can stay with her. Hearing myself say it out loud solidified the decision in my mind. There was no way back from this, no way to rebuild the trust she had shattered so completely. I hung up the call and went to the bedroom, pulling out a suitcase and starting to pack, not because I didn't belong here, but because I didn't want to be here anymore. She found me there, standing over the open suitcase, folding shirts and placing them inside methodically. "So that's it?" she asked, her voice cracking. "You're just leaving?" I stopped and really looked at her for the first time since last night. Her face was pale, her eyes puffy from crying. She looked like a stranger. "You left first," I said simply. "I'm just following your lead." Her face crumpled and she sat down on the edge of the bed. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she whispered. I was stupid. I was selfish. Please just let me explain. Let me fix this." I shook my head. The words came easier now. "You can't fix this. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine." I zipped up the suitcase and pulled it off the bed, slinging it over my shoulder. She didn't try to stop me as I walked past her, though I could hear her quiet sobs behind me. When I got to the door, I paused not because I doubted my decision, but because I realized I had something to say. I turned back to face her. "I loved you," I said, my voice steady. "I would have done anything for you. But now I don't even know who you are and I don't want to." Her sobs grew louder as I walked out the door, shutting it behind me. I stood on the porch for a moment, taking a deep breath and letting the cool air clear my head. For the first time in hours, I felt something close to relief. The weight I'd been carrying since last night wasn't gone, but it was lighter. As I got into the car and started driving, I didn't have a plan. I didn't know where I was going or what the next step would be, but for the first time since all of this started, I felt like I had control again. And that was enough for now. It was enough.